So we're going to be running this as a little bit of an intro, then with a couple questions that the candidates can answer and maybe rebut some other answers on, and then a conclusion of what, basically like a closing statement that they want to deliver to the public. So starting with Jay, can you just give us a 1-minute intro about yourself or your platform or what you'd like to say?
Sure. My name is Jay Shaw. I'm studying English Literature and International Relations. I currently serve as the Executive Coordinator of Student Services, managing all the services that the AMS provides to students. I manage a $300,000 budget, of which I'm currently 12% under. Speaking about financial issues, I think is definitely important. We need to spend student money prudently. That's why I will address the financial deficit that the AMS is currently facing. I believe that affordability and student aid funding is definitely an important concern, especially in this day and age where students are increasingly suffering from financial difficulties. As well, from a sustainability perspective, I believe that students need a sustainable and effective way of getting to campus. That's why I'll advocate hard for a rapid rail system to Ubyssey. Finally, I believe that the AMS has endemic communication issues, and that needs to be addressed. I believe that I have a comprehensive plan to move that forward, and I intend on pursuing that should I be elected president.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. And Caroline, we'll go to you next.
Great. Hi, my name is Caroline Wong. I'm the current AMS VP Admin, which means I oversee the $103 million new sub project and also look after over 360 different clubs and constituencies. My platform includes a strong vision for the new sub, addressing our financial structural deficit, fighting to improve student health and well-being on campus, increasing affordability and accessibility to UBC, and I also have a strategy of how to further communicate with students in a more meaningful way. You can check out my more detailed platform on www.votecarolinewong.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Caroline. And Ikat?
Hi, my name is Ekaterina Baranovskaya. I'm the current chair of the University and External Relations Committee. I'm a fourth-year political science and economics student, and I'm very excited to debate with my fellow candidates today. I'm running on a platform focusing on the creation of a vice president student life to replace the vice president administration as we move into the new sub. We currently don't really have a vice presidential role that's focused only on student needs. I am also one of the only candidates who has clear experience lobbying with external organizations, particularly on transit issues and issues of funding. And if you want to find out more, my website's www.ecatforams.ca.
The first question we have for you today is, what do you feel is the most important thing that the AMS does for students?
That's an interesting question because we do so much. I think that the most important thing the AMS does for students is provide opportunities. So the AMS is a body that it lobbies externally, but we give students opportunity to get that experience. We provide services to students, but we provide students with the opportunity to administer those services. We provide them with opportunities to take leadership roles and do so much more that only a student union can do.
Caroline?
I think the most important thing that AMS does is basically create a direct line to the VP Student's office and Professor 2. Issues that students don't know how to lobby about or bring up to the university level, they can use the AMS to do so. And we've done so with, say, athletic clubs. In my office, Student Administrative Commission, we took a look at all of our athletic clubs that are non-varsity and not supported through university funding, and they were struggling really hard in terms of accessibility to facilities and academic concessions. So we were able to complete a report and bring that to the VP Student's office.
Jay, what do you feel the most important thing is?
Well, unequivocally, I think the most important thing that the AMS does provide to students are services. And being in a role where I manage all the services on campus from an AMS perspective, I have a first-hand knowledge in terms of the importance of these services, whether it's tutoring, whether it's advocacy against the university, whether it's providing volunteer opportunities or sexual assault support, or even the UPass for that matter. These are essential services that all students require in order for them to not only deal with their day-to-day issues, but also move forward and gain those opportunities and gain the assistance that they otherwise wouldn't have in any other form. So I think it's absolutely essential that services are provided in the best possible way, and I believe that's the most integral function of our student society.
Great. So now each of you will have an additional 30 seconds to either rebut what anyone else has said or to further expand upon your own platform. So once again, we'll start with Ikat.
Okay, so both of the things that my fellow candidates have named are, of course, things that students have created and student-run. With the connection with the VP Student Life and President Toop, one of the main things we do, like the All Presidents Dinner, is provide a chance for the students to communicate with them directly. With the services, once again, this is something that we give the students a chance to run, and that's a vital thing that the AMS does.
Can I ask a question? When you said the connection between VP Student Life and, say, the university, was that for the future, one of your future plans, or is it currently, because we don't have a VP Student Life right now?
Sorry, I meant VP Student, like the...
Oh,
under
Louise.
the, yes.
Okay.
And Caroline, 30 seconds.
Although I do agree that services are important, and I do agree that creating opportunities are important, I think representation is what the AMS does best, and that's the purpose of AMS Council. We represent students, and we want to make sure that we accurately do so in order to bring the important issues to the university, and then further basically conduct our services, our businesses, and how we want to open opportunities for other people. So first and foremost, we are a student society, and we represent student groups.
I think my fellow candidate ECAP brings up a very good point in that the AMS is there to provide job opportunities for students. However, I think the specialized nature of some of the services that we offer are only jobs that can necessarily be conducted by permanent staff members in some cases. For example, specialized sexual assault support cannot necessarily be provided by a student, being that the type of specialized skills that you would need to provide that support is not necessarily something that students currently possess. So I think on a broad-based level, it really comes down to the services that we do provide for students.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So when we were making these questions, we realized that every candidate that we could remember has really made student engagement a priority in their platform, as it should be. But everyone seems to have a lot of ideas about how we can re-inspire students with the AMS, and yet voter turnout remains really low. So how do you think that you'll be different? And this time we'll start with Jay.
Definitely voter turnout and engagement is something that is a high priority. And I think definitely one of the major issues that we do have to look at is the means with which we use to actually communicate with students, because ultimately at the end of the day, I think it's our communication pitfalls that ultimately lead to a lack of engagement. Should we have the interfaces? Should we have built-in feedback mechanisms? Should we have targeted content to be able to provide to students for them to ascertain information? That would be the best possible way to increase engagement. What we have to do is increase the opportunities for students to get involved. And if we're not actually disseminating that information in the most effective manner, that's ultimately going to compound the issue of student engagement. So ultimately, I do believe that it really comes down to a communication issue, while at the same time involving students within that very integral process.
Although I understand that increasing opportunities is a good thing for UBC students, I think if I reflect on my year as a first-year student, I was overwhelmed by the amount of opportunity here at UBC, by the hundreds of different clubs you could join, by the different opportunities you can get involved in. And I think with my platform of creating a CRM platform, customer relationship management platform, that basically makes information more relevant to students, tracking behavior and understanding, are you interested in Greek life? Are you interested in volunteer opportunities? Are you interested in going to the pit at Wednesday nights, for example? That way we understand what opportunities are they actually wanting to engage in, and not mass mailing and just putting out information out there hoping that they'll engage with it. That way I think we can build a more positive relationship with our students and then go from there.
And ECAT?
Well, I think that we actually have quite a few things in place to communicate with students, but we're just not using them effectively. We've had plenty of chances in the last year where we have done consultations and we've gone out to other constituents and student groups. And the main feedback that I've received is people feel like we go up to them and we talk at them, and not so much ask their opinion on what we're doing. If we make people feel, and if we actually give people an opportunity to provide real feedback, then they'll feel like the work we're doing is partially their work, because, well, it is.
Awesome. And now 30 seconds to rebut or continue to expand, starting with Jay again.
What I will say is that I think Caroline's approach, being valuable in nature, is really only one of four facets from an external point of view that we need to focus on. I think our strategy has to be holistic, and what is entailed within this holistic strategy is really looking at not only a metrics-based evaluation of how students actually engage with the university and with the AMS, but also whether or not we have the appropriate feedback mechanisms involved, whether or not we actually have targeted content that is actually getting out to them, and whether or not we're using the channels that we currently have that students actually use to gain that information.
The CRM platform that I'm envisioning does provide opportunities for students to provide feedback on the issues that they care about or the businesses or services that they feel most strongly about, as well as different mechanisms for understanding how we want to basically communicate with clubs as a whole. I'm looking at the communications review done by Matt Parson and Sean Craigton this year, and I really want to take that work and move forwards with that. So looking at more holistically how we communicate on the inside, how we communicate with students, constituencies, and non-AMS groups like RHA, Ubyssey Rec, and RAs.
So when we were looking towards the 2013 election, my committee did actually think about CRMs, and one particular. The CRM that the AMS is planning on getting is mainly focused on improving our businesses, but it's inefficient for actually gathering the type of content, Caroline, that you're mentioning, unless we spend at least $40,000 extra to get the most effective model. I'm just curious if you're willing to put in that price.
Yeah, I definitely look into different companies we could be engaging in this CRM model that I'm looking at. And not do we just want to look at that very expensive type of model, but we could also engage students. We're at one of the best research facilities or institutions in Canada, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for students to engage in this kind of initiative and project to affect their own student society. So awesome. I think there's many more opportunities than just the one.
I'm going to have to stop you guys there on that one. Move on to the next question. So what do you think are the weaknesses of your opponent's platforms? I know we've touched on this a little bit between each of you, but you can delve in a little bit more. And this time, ECAT, will start with you because we haven't done that yet.
Scary. Well, I think that while Jay has a very good focus on services, some areas of his platform concern me a little more, particularly at the GSS. You mentioned that with Get On Board, we're working towards a line to Ubyssey, and that Surrey is sort of on board with this. That is, first of all, completely not what Get On Board is. It is a model to redo transit funding, and our partners have expressed concern that you're sort of misrepresenting their intentions. Caroline, also at the GSS, you mentioned that you were working on things related to Policy 88 and lobbying the government for issues such as grants. Because both of those things are under my committee, I just wonder what capacity as a VP administration you actually worked on those things with.
Do you have an order who you want to answer first? Or?
I think we're going to go to Jay next, but Caroline, do keep the question in mind.
I think what I failed to articulate adequately at the time was that there are members of the Surrey Council that are on board. And what I will say is that I think there is a lot of promise in the transit lobbying efforts, but we really have to mobilize the student population, much like how we did with Gage South, in order for us to gain leverage in this particular issue. What I will say on both of fronts with both my fellow candidates is that they do have a emphasis being placed on student life and creating a student life vice president. And I think while it may be important to look at these issues, currently a lot of areas that are being addressed within that supposed creation of a new portfolio is already being adequately addressed by VPs already. And I think it's important to not simply just rename something and have the same processes go on for time and time again.
We're going to have to cut you off there.
Okay. And for my rebuttal, I guess, Ika, I think you might have misheard me. What I said to GSS Council last night was, as president, I would intend to work with the VP academic on issues that the GSS feel very strongly about, including Policy 88, rights of any inventions or discoveries to be transferred to the university, as well as Acadia Park, among others. I made sure to engage with members of GSS prior to all of this, and I made sure to have really clean and clear lines of communication to my constituencies and clubs as VP admin. And so I knew that these were issues that I brought up, as well as an exec comm from Kirma Hall, the current VP academic. I know these were issues that they really, really cared about. So, yeah.
And so now we'll go to 30 seconds for each of you just to either create more questions or continue in the dialogue that you've already started. So back to ECAT.
Okay, well, I guess I'll mostly reply to Jay. You may not have been as clear as you wish you were during the GSS. However, the concerns I've heard have been particularly about the platform on your website. And it's one thing to make a bit of a miscommunication internally, but when you're talking about bodies external to the AMS, you have additional responsibilities that you have to keep in mind.
Absolutely. I think it's important that we do communicate information appropriately and accurately. And it may have been something that I did write down, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it has been revised. And obviously, it's always a fact-finding mission, and it's important to use a fact-based approach. And what I will say is that I think there is a lot of potential with this idea, and I think provided that we actually approach it in the right way, I think there's a lot of support that can be provided.
I'm a little bit confused as to, are we just rebutting right now? Okay.
If you have something to rebut.
I'm a little bit concerned with ECAT's platform being very advocacy and external lobbying based, as well as Jay's only coming from the services point of view. They are all very qualified candidates, but I believe I am the best candidate just because I have been an exec and I understand the new sub project inside and out. And with this is the last year being the last year before the new sub opens in 2014, we need a president who has a strong vision of how we're moving our society and transitioning it into this new era.
I want to shift over to housing. AMS surveys show that long commutes cause students to be disconnected from the campus community. Yet living on campus is prohibitively high for many students. One reason, according to the AMS's own documents, is that student rent is 23% higher than it ought to be because of a complicated internal loan scheme where the university pays interest to itself. At the same time, leading university administrators have been awarded interest-free mortgages. In your mind, should we change this arrangement? And if so, how would we go about doing this? Let's maybe start with Caroline this time.
This internal loan scheme was something very interesting that the VP Academic found and reported on. We definitely want to continue to push the university to revise this scheme and see if we can take the interest that's collected from their loans and use it for housing grants for students who need tiered payments for housing. If you have a room with a view, for example, if you're living in one of the older residences, to give people that kind of opportunity. We know that the Housing Action Plan intends to have 50% of students living on campus, and we want to help them achieve that. And in order to do so, we have to fight on behalf of students.
Jay?
I think that's a very important question, Gordon, and that primarily I think there are a lot of avenues that we can pursue to actually advocate for student interests. Particularly, I think one area that we can focus on is creating a housing advisory committee. However, this committee should be comprised of individuals that are outside of campus and community planning. They need to be individuals who are primarily students that are advocating for students. Realistically, the approach that the university has taken has been one that is lacking of any sort of meaningful consultations with the students. And I think having our own advisory committee that we can lobby on behalf of students would be the most effective way of actually achieving our outcomes.
ECAT?
So student housing is another thing that falls under my committee's scope. I was the chair over Gage South, and I've worked extensively with a number of VP academics on housing. One of the biggest things with this internal loan, it's definitely something that we have to push, but you have to be sort of respectful of the methods of communication between us and the university, and keep in mind that this is something that Vice President academics are very passionate about, and I want to give them the opportunity to push forward on this. Outside of that, there are a number of new hubs going on, and I think that we have an opportunity to encourage Ubyssey to try different pricing structures for these new hubs. So things like charging more for a room with a view are things that may be easier to do when a building just is starting up.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, we're not actually going to have time for rebuttals on this one because we are running a bit short on time. But we're going to give you now 30 seconds to just close off with a closing statement of some sort. So this time we're going to start with whose turn is it to start, Gordon?
Oh. We both know it's not my turn to start first. My name's Ekaterina Baranovskaya. I am running to be your AMS president. My platform encompasses all aspects of the AMS. I have a clear vision for our businesses. I have a clear vision for the new sub. I have a clear vision for student life and for advocacy. I believe that next year we will have to move into the new sub. So the main thing this president has to do is ensure that the president that takes over after us and moves the society will be as best place as they possibly can be.
Jay?
The AMS is in a perilous situation. We are facing endemic financial issues, we are facing considerable sustainability issues, and we are facing a significant communication problem. We can ultimately choose to elect the same sort of individuals who've consistently run for these positions, or we can choose an individual who's actually connected with the student population, who has been there year after year, day after day, serving students and providing them with the necessary services that they need on a day-to-day basis. My name is Jay Shaw, and I'm running for president. You can check out my full platform at votej.ca. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Caroline Wong, and I'm running to be your AMS president. We're entering a year where our businesses aren't doing too well, increasing construction of the new sub, and we're going to go through some internal reorganization. A president with previous experience as an executive is crucial in pushing our society forwards. I've been involved with different groups on campus, including Ubyssey orientations, the Greek system, clubs, as well as Res Life, and I know that I can accurately represent students. Please vote for me, Caroline Wong, for AMS president.
Well, thank you to all of you for coming in today. Once again, those were our presidential candidates for 2013 for Ubyssey's Alma Mater Society, Ekaterina Baranovskaya, Jay Shaw, and Caroline Wong. So you can check out all their respective platforms and make sure to get online and vote next week. I'm Claire Eagle.
I'm Gordon Caddick. Thanks for joining us.
High five.
All right.